Hi, my name is Mark Hyland. Welcome to my mental health series. My first one's going to be on post-traumatic stress disorder, and we're going to touch on resilience. So post-traumatic stress disorder is a mental condition that's triggered by what you perceive to be a terrifying or life-threatening event. And symptoms may include flashbacks or nightmares and severe anxiety, and you have constant recurring uncontrolled thoughts about the event. So most people who go through traumatic events have temporary difficulty adjusting and coping, such as someone who's maybe done CPR on a colleague or a family member. But usually with time and good self-care and some help from family and friends, these symptoms get better and they disappear. But if the symptoms get worse and last for months or even years, or interfere with your day-to-day functioning, you may well be suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. And getting effective treatment after PTSD symptoms develop can be critical to reducing symptoms and improving function. So you need to be in talking to someone, being debriefed, and going through a de-stress program where wellness and mental health is considered, and we help kind of relieve the symptoms that you're experiencing so you can get back to functioning properly on a day-to-day basis. So post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms can start at any time from a month to years later, and the symptoms can cause significant problems in social or work situations, and indeed in relationships. They can interfere with your ability to go about your normal daily tasks or your normal daily work life. And PTSD symptoms are generally grouped into 4 different types: intrusive memories, negative changes in thinking and mood, avoidance, changes in physical and emotional reactions. And symptoms can vary over time, and they can vary from person to person. So what are intrusive memories? The symptoms of intrusive memories are recurrent, unwanted, distressing memories of the traumatic event. So these intrusive memories in your brain that keep popping up, reliving the traumatic event as if it was happening again. These are called flashbacks. And upsetting dreams or nightmares about the traumatic event. So waking up at night time, cold sweats after having nightmares. And it can cause severe emotional distress, physical reactions to something that remind you of the traumatic event. So symptoms of avoidance may include trying to avoid thinking or indeed talking about the traumatic event. So you socially exclude yourself, and that also includes from your family and friends. And you also avoid places. You stop taking part in activities and things that remind you of these situations that you were in, or indeed put you in a position where you have to talk to people that are asking you questions about it. You avoid that. This is all called avoidance. Symptoms of negative changes in thinking and mood may include negative thoughts about yourself, and this is the worst part of post-traumatic stress disorder. So you have these negative thoughts about yourself and other people or the world, and hopelessness about the future, and this is like severe depression. Memory problems, including not remembering important aspects of the traumatic event, and difficulty maintaining close relationships because you've excluded yourself from conversation with people because you don't want to have to talk about the events that happened. So you may feel detached from your family and friends. You have a lack of interest in activities you once enjoyed, and you have difficulty experiencing positive emotions. And these are all the clinical signs of depression. And you may feel emotionally exhausted, I suppose is the best word, emotionally exhausted. And the reason this happens is because part of your brain has become switched on all of the time, and we'll talk about that shortly. So changes in physical and emotional reactions. Some of the things that you may see, and they're called arousal symptoms. You may get easily startled or frightened. You may become overly emotional, like crying when you're watching a movie. You may always feel that you're on guard for danger. And you develop self-destructive behavior, risk-taking, unsafe actions, and you don't take precautions the way you used to. You may have trouble sleeping. you may have trouble concentrating, and you may get irritable, angry, outbursts of aggressive behavior, uncontrolled, unexpected, and that brings overwhelming guilt or shame after the fact or after the event. So what is it that actually happens? And here's a short story, I suppose, that explains it. So Joe was this water industry guy who was working in a confined space, what you know as a wet well sump. So he was working with a team of 4 guys. They hadn't set up the area properly, and they put one guy into the space, and he was overcome by toxic gases. And as happens with people, there's an altruistic kind of rescue mentality that comes about, and all 4 guys, in their efforts, unsuccessful efforts to rescue their pal from the hole, all died except for Joe. And Joe was taken to hospital. He was rescued by the emergency services and was in a coma for 3 weeks. And Joe reported regular nightmares and flashbacks after the event, and he especially had troubling panic attacks when he thought about having to go back to his job. So the post-traumatic stress disorder is something like this inside Joe's head. So where his boss wants him to go back into the confined spaces to work, he still feels that he's still trying to get out of the last one that he was stuck in. And in his head, he's still stuck there because Joe's brain has been hijacked by the trauma. He feels out of control because he can't make his mind to do what he wants it to do, which is forget about the trauma. But despite what reason says, Joe's body still holds on to the distress of the accident and is desperately trying to get out of the tank or the hole that he felt he was in. And the hijacking results in post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and some common symptoms of this, like we spoke about, are nightmares, flashbacks, panic attacks, startled response, preoccupation and with the traumatic event. And how exactly are Joe's brain and body being hijacked by the trauma? And simply put, when a person experiences something traumatic, adrenaline and neurochemicals rush to the brain, and they print or imprint a picture there, and the traumatic memory loops in on the emotional side of the brain, which we'll speak about in a short time, and it disconnects from the part of the brain that conducts the reasoning and cognitive processing, and this reasonable part of the brain is unable to help the emotionally loaded part of the brain get away from the trauma that it's been involved in. It's estimated that of 100 people who have experienced trauma, 25%, 1 in 4, will experience post-traumatic stress disorder, which includes, for example, with burn survivors, 1 out of every 4 burn survivors will suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. So with statistics this high, we can conclude that it's normal response to an extreme situation, and it's not a pathology. So post-traumatic stress disorder is a reaction, and it's a reaction and a process that happens within your brain. So to understand the brain and the body in trauma, several parts of the brain are important in understanding how the brain and body functions during trauma. So they include the forebrain or the prefrontal cortex, the limbic system, which is in the center underneath, which is located very close to the brainstem. And when a person experiences a traumatic event, chemicals flood the brain and adrenaline floods the body, and the memory is imprinted into a piece of the brain called the amygdala. And the amygdala holds on to all of these emotional events that happen in your life, and some of them it deals with, and some of them it has problems with. And it's the part of the brain that we associate with the chimp, or the chimpanzee part of your brain. It's not involved in cognitive thinking. So is there a monkey inside your brain? And yes, the answer is indeed there is. There's a primitive part of your brain that's solely functioning around survival, and it's the part of your brain that activates the flight or fight syndrome. So it's called the amygdala hijacked. And what happens is, when you are involved in a traumatic or life-threatening event, this part of your brain switches on. But in the case of PTSD, your brain becomes imprinted, full of chemicals and it's unable to switch back off again. So you are always walking around in a heightened sense of danger, looking for danger, emotionally thinking, stress, depression, because you can't switch your head off, and the cognitive part of your brain can't help. It can't switch off the amygdala. So psychologists define resilience as the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragic events, or significant sources of stress. So it's your bounce back ability. And what you need to do is build connections, prioritize relationships, join a group, be involved with people, get back out into your community, get back out to your football team or the sports that you play. Take care of your body. This is called fostering wellness. Practice mindfulness. Avoid negative outlets, avoid negative people, and avoid negative situations. Keep yourself in a positive situation as much as you can. Every day doesn't have to be positive. Every minute of every day doesn't have to be positive, but you can have a positive mindset. Find purpose, help others, be proactive, move towards your goals, move forward. Don't concentrate on what you've left behind. It is behind you. You can't change it. You can live in the moment, and you can change and manipulate your future. So don't live in the past, and always look for opportunities of self-discovery, learning, encouraging yourself, building goals and moving towards them. Embrace healthy thoughts. Keep things in perspective. You never know what's around the corner. You never know what the next day holds. Every day has the potential to be a brighter day. Accept change in your life. Maintain a hopeful outlook and learn from your past. Don't live in it. Learn from it and move on. So always when you have any experience with post-traumatic stress disorders or depression or any type of mental health illness, it's really important that you get help. And it's crucial. Getting help is crucial in building your resilience. And having resilience means that you have the ability to bounce out of the dark days into the future. So you can move out of your dark day and you can look forward to the day, the next day, because you have a positive outlook. And that can be built. Resilience can be built. So that's it for the first one. It's just a series that I'm going to put together, short talks. And for any more information, you can contact me on LinkedIn. You can PM me there. Okay, thanks very much for your time.